Welcome to Psychic Evolution with evidential psychic medium Jamie Clark and spiritual coach and healer Maggie Clark.
And these abilities are so natural, they're supernatural. And welcome back to another episode of Psychic Evolution. I'm Jamie Clark.
And I'm Maggie Clark, and this is the podcast where you discover the psychic potential within to empower yourself and manifest your psychic and mediumship gifts. And today we are so honored to bring on Sue Frederick. We met Sue at the second Helping Parents Heal conference in 2022, and she was so lovely. We got to spend dinner with her and just have a wonderful conversation. And unbeknownst to me until really recently, Sue Frederick actually had a means and a hand in getting Jamie and I together dating. And it's amazing. I know, this is so amazing how it turned out. So first off, Sue is an author. She's a speaker. She's written 8 books, including Through a Divine Lens, Bridges to Heaven, I See Your Dream Job, and I See Your Soulmate. And she's also an intuitive coach and a master numerologist. So I didn't know that we have a numerologist that comes in our podcast every year, Barbara Wheeling, and she studied with you for coaching. So when she developed her coaching, system, she wanted to start working with people. I'm like, I'm in. I've been her friend for 30 years. So I'm like, definitely, I want to try it. So we did the career coaching, and it was amazing. It validated everything that I could have imagined. And then we did the soulmate, the relationship coaching. And
that's
1 month after, him and I were scheduled a date together. So it was just like the synchronicity was just amazing.
This makes me so happy. This universe is so filled with signs and synchronicities when we allow it and open up to it. This just blows my mind.
Isn't it amazing? It's amazing. So I actually knew of you, but never knew you through my friend. And then all of a sudden, here we go. So it's just been a fantastic way to get to know you vicariously through your teachings and then to get to meet you in person. So welcome.
The night that we met in person, it was guided because I was walking to the banquet, and I always would go to these things alone and put up a prayer, Spirit guide me to where I'm supposed to go. And I was a little late getting there, and I walked in and like all these tables were filled, but I kept trusting, okay, Spirit, just guide me exactly to the table. And I couldn't stop walking towards you guys from the back of your head. I didn't know who you were, but I was just walking right to you, and somehow there was an empty seat next to you, and I sat down and we introduced ourselves, and it was amazing from then on.
And you just had to be you. That's the brilliance of it. Being able to look back on some of these circumstances that maybe we don't understand as they're happening. Once we attain it, then it's like, oh, now I see why this did or didn't happen. It's kind of nice to get the evolution of our soul to go, man, we're always growing. But if we can have some fun along the way, because to me, it is fun.
I noticed in your career, you've done a lot of of course, you've written all these books, and they accompany some of the training and the intuitive coaching, the grief coaching, the soulmate intuitive life coaching, the career intuitive coaching, all the things that you still offer. You still offer these coaching programs. So you can check it out on our website, which is at SueFrederick.com, and we'll have a link in the show notes for all of that too. But what got you into numerology? Because honestly, I'm a huge fan of numbers. Number is the law of the universe. I studied it ever since I opened up my spiritual lens. At the age of 19, I saw numbers. I saw a deck of tarot cards, really, and it was just like, I need this. But the numbers really got me. And so I have studied a lot of numerology. I don't call myself a numerologist because it's not my playground, so to speak, but it goes into everything that I study, the astrology, the tarot, everything. So what got you onto numbers? Because to me, it was through tarot, but everyone's different.
I was thinking about this exact thing last night. Like, I knew you were going to ask me this, and I was thinking, what was that moment? And I really got a clear message, vision that It was in 1979 when my husband Paul died. And you have to know that Paul was the epitome of what I wanted in a relationship. It was this pure love. He was just gorgeous to me. I couldn't stop looking at him from the moment I met him. And we were completely in sync in our spiritual beliefs, and we taught outward bound mountaineering, and he was just the most gorgeous man I'd ever known inside and out. And he loved me like I'd never been loved before. And when he died of colon cancer, he went through terrible suffering, and I was his caregiver through that. And it was 1979 when there wasn't as much ability to help cancer patients navigate their journeys without as much suffering. So when I think of the word suffering, it's Paul, and I know he chose it for his own reasons, which we can talk about later. But by the time he crossed over, I was angry at this universe. And my question was, how can a loving, kind, sweet, good soul like Paul suffer like that? Why, if there's a God, why would that happen? And where do we go? I knew Paul had already come back and shown me constantly that he was fine in the divine realms. So I didn't need proof of that. I was getting that myself. But I needed proof that there was a purpose to all of this, that this wasn't some random universe. And especially I needed proof, why am I still here? Why can't I just go be with him? Like, how can I do any good in the world now? Because I'm broken and angry and grief stricken. And I know everybody grieving who's listening to this has been in that exact spot. So my friends did everything, like they would take me to laugh at movies, which helped laughing and everything. But I was really in this place until a really good friend gave me a gift of a session with a numerologist. And I thank Spirit every moment for that, because I feel like it was a choice point. Was I going to become just that cynical, negative, angry, shut down person? Or was I going to start asking the spiritual questions, going on the spiritual inquiry journey that would bring me to peace and understanding? And numerology opened that pathway for me. And from the moment she gave me my first reading and showed me Paul's path and our agreement, I just knew, oh my God, this answers everything. And I had this notebook this thick. I actually still have it. It's over there in my office, where I would write down everybody I knew's date of birth and try to figure out their path and what it all meant. And this was like 1979, 1980. There was no internet. You couldn't just go to some big website and figure it out. And there was one book I could find in the Boulder bookstore.
Right.
So I
all you
really
needed.
learned it. I learned it from the path of inquiry, and that's how the Greeks always studied and learned and taught, like asking the questions, seeking it yourself. And the numbers saved my life. They brought me, and I have to also say, it was decades of learning about them. Like when I first started to learn, I still couldn't make sense of some of it, and it was just this constant asking why, looking at everyone's path, trying to get it. And then Spirit started really helping me. And like at night, if I'd be writing or thinking about a particular number, I would get lifted up and shown all the meanings and dimensions of that number and how to use it to help people. And George Harrison took me on one of these journeys after he had crossed over. He one night took me out on this big ship in the water, and we stood on the bow of the boat, and he downloaded in me all of this information about numbers, and it changed the way I could look at numbers and the way I could use them as a portal for understanding.
I love this story. I love this story because I also, with my spirit team, they wake me up in the middle of the night all the time to give me numbers, to help me understand like tarot cards or whatever it is that I'm working with or processing. all the time. And it could be hours where I'm just immersed and downloaded or vibrating with information. It's hard to describe. It's usually somewhat visual as well for me.
Right.
But it's fantastic because it does, when we start asking the universe to know more about the mysteries of life, when we're seeking with a pure heart and an open mind and consciousness, and our spirit teams know this and we're open to it, they will work with everybody and anybody who is ready and asking the questions. And I think that is where we go.
I had to put up my sincere plea, and say, I'm not the most brilliant person in the world, but I'm a willing, open-hearted student, so please help me. And man, it's like they opened my mind and just poured it all in.
I love it. So amazing. So you get downloaded with all this cool information about numbers, to make sense of what you're studying. And then how did you come up with your coaching programs? Because that organically just probably flowed into everything that you were finally having that aha, the understanding about.
Well, it took me a minute to be brave enough to stand up in the world as a numerologist, as an intuitive, as a psychic, even though all my life I was having precognitive dreams that would freak my family out, dreaming of a car accident that would happen the next day when we'd all forgotten about the dream. All of these things, my family literally did not know what to do with me, and I was kind of the black sheep. I grew up in the South, right? I was not my mother's dream of a Southern debutante girl.
Thank goodness, right?
Right, I know. And so I left home to go to college and basically never went back. And finally, getting away from home, first thing I did was enroll in theology, theosophy, yoga, meditation, everything to study and learn a very hungry spiritual mind. And yet constantly hiding who I was. And I hope people never do that these days. But I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be liked. So I kept trying to emphasize I was practical and hardworking, and I became a journalist because I could write. But yet every time I wrote a meaningless story, this part of my soul was like, oh my God, how much longer can you do this? How much longer can you write about things that don't change people's lives, And to my credit, I wrote about health as my career went on, so I was helping people live a healthy life. But finally, I hit a big reinvention, and in numerology, we all know that we all have these intentional reinventions, right? And I was studying numerology the whole time. I was giving it away to my friends. Like when I would make friends with someone, I'd take them out to dinner and I'd say, let me give you this fun little reading, and they would go, my God, you should charge for that. That's amazing. And I would go, no, I'm just playing with it. I was so afraid to be myself. I just look back at that and I go, my God, Sue, you wasted so much time.
Or you grew into it at your own pace.
I grew into it. You're right, Jamie. And so finally, I hit one of the big reinvention points. I was a single mom. My journalism career had kind of crashed and burned because I'd risen up to the top to VP of content for websites, and suddenly the .com era hit, 99 crashed. I literally couldn't get a job. I'd gone from this six-figure income writing career to, no, I'm sorry, you're too qualified to be a cashier at Whole Foods Market. That's true. Yeah. I even applied to be a cashier. Thank you, God, for not giving me that job. And through the dark night of my soul, when I really put up the plea, please help me figure out how to make my living from who I really am, the voice was so clear, like, how long do you have to bang your head against the wall, hiding who you are, before you're willing to stand up as an intuitive, as a numerologist, and help people from what you know is true? And I was so desperate to save my daughter's home and our life that I went, well, what the heck? If nobody loves me or likes me again, I just can't even care. And so I sort of did it for my daughter. It turned out to be such a miracle because she was only like 5 years old, and she would sit on my lap while I was building a website and going, look, this is what mommy's going to do now. And she was so enthused about it with me. And she got to watch me turn from desperate, unemployed, single mom to doing what I came to the world to do through numbers and intuition and spirituality. And then watch people fill my living room for workshops and client sessions. And my life changed in front of her eyes. And today I know that that has empowered her to go and become who she is. And she's amazing. So that's how it happened. And I have to say, if it hadn't been for her, if I hadn't been a single mom, if my ex-husband hadn't abandoned me and tried to take everything in the world from me, I probably wouldn't have had the courage to do it. I'm sorry to say, but that's my story.
Yeah, but you had the strength to do it. Yeah. A lot of people will shut down. Yeah. And so congratulations. And having the guts to become that inner space astronaut, discover who we truly are, the oneness. And for you, took you a long time, like me. But you're doing
I gotta live to be 100 to make up for all the wasted time.
And then some. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And I think just like you're sharing is when your daughter could see your growth, your spiritual understanding and the acceptance to go, what's real for you and how you're going to make it through this thing, to go, wow. And that must have been amazing. Like you're sharing is to see her acquire her own qualities, her own abilities to work with life. And in doing that, does she use any of her abilities?
Well, it's so funny because both of our kids were very cynical about it all growing up, And I mean, who wants to be a teenager and have a mom doing numerology readings, Yeah. And so I know I embarrassed her a lot when she was growing up with all that. But my books were taking off and people were honoring me and she was coming to some of my talks and stuff. So when she got out in the world in her 20s, and our son as well, and they hit their first 9-year reinvention, and I hadn't told them it was a 9-year coming up. They each went through their own version of incredible heartbreak. And that happens when they're out in their 20s and they hit their first 9-year in their 20s. And in my daughter's case, it was such a devastating event for her that she started meditating again, even though I'd raised her meditating. She started looking at numbers and wanting to understand how she could look at it through the numbers. And today she has a master's in spiritual psychology and she's an acupuncturist. So I am so proud of her. She realized quickly to be a healer in her journey. And now, yes, we do talk about the numbers a lot together. And I believe someday when she's working with clients, she will be bringing that into her conversations. Yeah, I believe that 100%. Yeah. I also believe that everybody who studies the numbers, they get shown their own particular gift of using with clients and helping people, because I'm fascinated as I look back at my journey. The way I was trained in numbers by my first person who taught me is so different from how I evolved creating my process, that now when a client comes to me, I'm doing sun sign and birth path, personal year, age, putting my hand on that energy before the session begins and downloading pure guidance for them and writing it all so that the session starts with, here's what your spirit guides have to say about you on your path. And then if they have a departed loved one that they're grieving, that I call that departed loved one in. I'm not a traditional medium. I ask for the departed loved one's date of birth, ahead of time, because that's how I call in their energy. And as I request that, oh my God, they show up so clearly and so helpfully. And I download so much writing, and then they are part of the session with us. And this is not a Sue Frederick creation. This is really what God showed me to do and gave me the gateway of doing it. And I have to say, every day it knocks my socks off. I'm so blown away by it all the time.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And the numbers and the information. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, can I tell you about my dream vision that I had last night?
Yes.
Please.
This is so validating. I mean, Earth here in the Earth realm is hard. At least for me it is. It could have to do with my age or something. But, I mean, seriously, I really every day have to have an intention of rising up from the heavy energy of this physical world. And I was having a lot of exhaustion Monday and Tuesday, and I was kind of wanting to just stay in bed and sleep, but I had clients and everything. And so I really called out to my spirits and said, I really need proof. I always need validation. I need something to lift me up and energize me again. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm asking for this again, but can you give me something so strong it blows me away? So I have a friend here in Phoenix who I met through doing a remote session with when she lived on the East Coast. And her daughter, her beautiful 19-year-old daughter, had been murdered her freshman year in college. I'm feeling her with me right now. So I know she wants us to tell this story. And Christy, the mom, has told me I can tell you. And so Christy came to me and we did an amazing session where Christy spoke to her mom. And then Christy, I said in the session, I said, Christy, are you guys thinking of moving here? I'm like seeing you guys living here near me. And long story short, she and her husband and their son live now here in Cave Creek. And we are absolutely best friends. I love Christy so flippin' much. And Tess is such a powerful communicator. This girl was a promising musician who was writing and performing music, was accepted into an exclusive New York college for the arts where she was already recording and writing music. Just incredible, evolved soul. And her mother is the sweetest, tenderest heart being you could ever meet. And as you imagine, this devastated Tess's parents. And yet they have had so many signs from Tess that it has blown them away. But yesterday, unbeknownst to me, Christy and Tess's dad were going through old journals of Tess's, trying to put her music together. They're going to release it on a music streaming platform. And so they had to go through Tess's journals and lyrics of her songs. And it was really a hard day for Christy and her husband because they were seeing some of the pain and angst that Tess had experienced as a teenager. And they know that that's not what Tess is in now, but that was in some of these journals and music. So last night I go to sleep putting out my plea for the sign that'll just get me completely jazzed up again. And Spirit always answers that. And so the entire night, and I hadn't talked to Christy in a few weeks, so I didn't know what was going on with her. And the whole night, I am with Christy, Tess, and Christy's husband, Tess's dad. And the three of us, it was a time continuum thing. We had gone back to when Tess was first born. And Christy was showing, and Tess was guiding the whole thing, and she showed me Christy giving birth to her and how beautiful Christy was, what an incredible, loving mom. I literally was in the room watching Christy give birth to Tess and just seeing how gorgeous Christy is. And then Christy hands her to me, and Tess shows me her face, and she's a baby. And Christy says, she's a girl. And I look into her face, and I'm going, no, she's androgynous. She's an old soul. She doesn't look like a girl. And we're sitting there having this conversation in the dream. And then Christy says, would you carry her? So I put Tess on my chest in one of those baby carriers. Oh my gosh. And Tess reaches these long arms around me and hugs me with this unconditional love wash that you guys know. It's an unconditional love like you never experience in the earth realm. And Tess gives me that. And then the whole night I'm with the three of them, walking through the early moments of Tess's life. And her message to me is, my parents loved me more than anyone on earth. It was that pure, unconditional love. My childhood was gorgeous. My life was gorgeous. And I love you all so much. And then so this morning when I woke up from the dream, I'm texting Christy going, God, I was with you guys all night. And Tess had all these messages. So Christy gets on the phone with me and she's like, you have no idea. I went to bed crying my eyes out about the pain that Tess had been in during part of her journey. And yet Tess's whole message was, I am unconditional love. I'm an androgynous old soul being. And of course, some of the pain in the journals was about her mixed feelings about being a teenage girl, right? What old soul hits teenage girl time and loves it, right? Nobody. Like,
When is high school over? What's next?
right. So I was given that beautiful dream vision from Tess all night. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Tess. And then to be able to share that with her mom, and her mom even sent me these lyrics that Tess had written about holding a newborn baby in her arms. I mean, there's so many synchronicities in it, I can't even explain it, but thank you, Spirit. You know, that's all I got to say about it. Extraordinary, extraordinary universe we live in.
But look at what you're saying. The same neural soul way brought everyone together. And not only that, the infancy, the new beginnings of life experience, you are just having your natural, in this case, intuitive spiritual connection, and then getting solid validation afterwards to go, oh, holy cow, you know, and to be able to share that with her. That is
God,
powerful.
isn't that amazing that, Jamie, you do this every day, you know? It's just so flippin' mind-blowing. I mean, you can't explain it to other people because the words don't translate it.
I get that a lot. I don't know what to think, okay? It takes them out of their mind and puts them into their soul. And it's beautiful when, as you're doing, you can give those qualities, those characteristics, those personalities that move from, okay, to... There's no way you could know that. I'm like, I know, except we know it. And when they can feel the comfort, and just for myself, like you have a genuine energy. If you're saying it, you've already felt or thought it through. So it's very grounded and down to earth. That can be very effective and beautiful and healing for people who are going through that. Because, you know, like I do, their life is up in the air going, who the frick am I? Where am I going? What am I doing?
And Jamie, that's why the numbers are so helpful, because I can help people go, you know, this is why you're still here. This is your work to do now. This is how you can bring your message and your gift to the world. And that's where numerology excels.
Literally by the numbers.
Yes, by the numbers. It's not some vague thing of, oh, you should start a nonprofit, you know. It's really more about how that unique person is meant to carry on with their gifts. And it's so beautiful. You know, once we start looking up for answers, and I literally mean looking up, calling in spirit, saying, I don't know anything, please teach me, please show me, we all start learning the same things. That's what's so beautiful about it. You know, like what I teach is exactly kind of what you guys teach in different words, and
Your
everybody
own flavor,
else
yes.
You know, we couldn't all be doing this if this were not the truth of this reality and beyond reality, and that anybody who is sincere and open-hearted and asks for that wisdom, it comes pouring through. And what gets us sincere and open-hearted, unfortunately, it's often pain, and especially grief. And that's why I say all my best friends are people who've had devastating loss, because they all have searched and come up with the same conclusions, the same point of view. And so we're in complete sync.
You know, and realizing that one life we live, that eternal life, allows us to hopefully embrace these moments, you know, because for myself, with the numbers, they are very powerful. I've always been amazed and amused to go, holy crap, that's exactly how does that get that kind of personality and characteristic with it? So I've always respected what Mag is able to do, and those different ways of reading energy are brilliant, because no one's the same physically, they're not going to be the same metaphysically. And so like you're doing, when you have the versatility to connect with people, you know, a lot of times they'll be like, you know, I've heard that crap 1,000 times, but click, that's the first time. All right.
Well, like, the other thing is people go, you know, so many of my clients go, my God, you know, you're telling me what other people have told me that I've gone to, other psychics and other mediums. I'm getting the same message from everybody. And I always go, isn't that a gorgeous validation, right? Imagine if everybody gave you completely opposite information, then you would be so confused.
Yeah. If one person says it, whatever, more than one says it, maybe there's something to it. and to have
Right.
the guts to open up to this. Because as you know, not a lot of people are able to allow themselves to open up to the spiritual avenue.
I hope
Whatever
that's
works for you is the
changing,
great
Jamie.
thing.
Don't you
it
think that's
is.
changing?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And just for myself, it's part of the tipping point of consciousness for this planet that I always share the fact that the COVID thing, that was a big challenge that actually separated the entire planet, actually had a few blessings
I
within
agree.
it.
100%.
Yeah,
People had to shut up, sit down, be quiet, and turn inward.
yeah, that was the thing, because for a little while, I believe they were saying, you ain't going to that location, meaning a church.
Right.
So people like, if I can't go there, I got to bring it to me. It is you.
Yeah.
But also go ahead.
The other thing, Jamie, is that, I wrote that book, I See Your Dream Job, about how you're not here to do meaningless careers and meaningless jobs, that each one of us has an intentional soul purpose, and we can manifest that through our unique work, but we have to create it oftentimes. It's not just going and having a job. Well, that's against the cultural belief system. And yet in COVID, so many people couldn't go to that horrible job. And then when it was time to go back, they didn't want to. They knew now that they could be happier doing something else. And to me, that's a wonderful thing, because people all have a perfect path, a way to make a living from their true self, their true gifts, if they seek it and find it. And the government is going, oh, it's terrible. These people don't want to go back to their terrible jobs. And I'm going, it's wonderful because they will find their true work now.
See, and that makes even more sense with, I've seen here in Phoenix that there are so many places that are hiring, yet no one's freaking working. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. Back in the day, we did what it took, whatever it was.
The negative people say, oh, well, they're lazy. That's such baloney. People are seeking more meaning in their work
passion.
now.
Yes.
And that's the good thing. That's the good thing.
And it's that spurring of the moment that's getting us to go in another direction.
And also, I think it's fascinating what's happening with religion, because I grew up Catholic. I've studied every tradition. I've been Hindu. I've lived in an ashram, Buddhism, Native American spirituality, theology, theosophy. But I started becoming a unity minister 4+ years ago, and so I've been in online ministerial school while I was doing my work. And the reason is because of all of those paths, including Hinduism and Buddhism, the only one that says God is a loving consciousness, not a person in the sky, but a loving consciousness, and there's no such thing as hell or judgment. Unity gets those principles that we are all part of God, that consciousness runs through us. And that totally resonates with what I experience. But I also know that, Unity, like all other churches, has lost most of its congregants and is trying to build it back up. But I've never believed that we need to go to churches to experience this God consciousness. And so what does our life, our world look like in a few years when hopefully there's not as much dogma, there's not as much go to church and hear about fire and brimstone, and suddenly people are doing more inner reflection, meditation, whatever, and then getting the download of God is love. That's my hope. That's my dream.
In that firsthand experience, you'll have no choice but to go, I don't understand it, I just experienced it. Have you ever had, because there's been just one time in my life, I always just unify with the oneness. I'm like one big eyeball of consciousness. But there was one time where I could see 360 degrees. I'm like, how the frick is that even possible? And it wasn't like I was shifting and doing it. Was like, I am. And it was fascinating. Have you ever had any of those spiritual experiences that have spurred you on in this path?
You were experiencing the I am of consciousness. Yeah.
Oh yes,
you
ma'am.
were. And it's funny because, oh, wow, everything's on purpose. Just this morning, a memory came up for me on Facebook, and I was reading it. And in 2010, I had written about this. It was February 1st of 2010, and I was sitting at my computer writing one of my books. And suddenly I was lifted out of my body, and I was perfectly healthy and alive. And I was lifted out of my body and shown the love connections of this universe and how we were all part of it. It's a vision I can't explain in words, but my brain felt like it had exploded, basically. I mean, I felt like you might feel when you have a stroke, that I couldn't see the ordinary world. I could only see the extraordinary world, and I could hardly talk. And when the vision, like I remember getting away from my computer because Sarah, my daughter, was in the house. And I remember the conscious part of me was thinking, should I go tell her that I might be having a stroke and she needs to call the ambulance?
Right. Yeah.
But I couldn't even crawl over there. I was like just sitting there in this state. And finally, when I began to come back into my body and I kind of crawled into Sarah's room, I was like, Sarah, the most bizarre thing just happened to me. And she was too young to appreciate it. She was like, Mom, are you saying you need to go to the ER? I'm like, no, I'm okay now. But it's God and it's all love and we're all part of it. And it was one of those moments where her adolescent self was like, of all the people in the world I could have had a mom be, why is it going to be her?
And she chose you, right? Sucker! But knew the potential growth of the soul's evolution, and it's nice when you could just be you. And as a parent, she had an idea of who you are, so you weren't one of them. It's
right.
You just see and feel and think a little differently. Okay, so how is that? Because I've got 2 boys of my own, and both of them use their abilities very nicely. They've got, the empowerment with the love and compassion, and it's that kind of connection that is brilliant. As our kids, all we can do, they're always going to be our babies, no matter how old they get. But when we can have the essence, because for me, my boys only knew me doing this spiritual psychic stuff. And growing up on that, they became very comfortable. Oh, you're seeing that and then this and this. And they would come to my presentations and all that. But there were also a number of times, well, yeah, you're bringing up an interesting point for me, and that is the multidimensionality. Because there have been times where I'm doing a public reading presentation and bip, my eyesight is behind me, looking at me, doing the information. And it wasn't like I was doing this. I was like, I'm just giving the information. But that, the experiencer and the energy of learning from multidimensionality is huge, because it sounds like you've been doing that for quite a bit. And all you have to do is just be you.
Do you know that dreams have always told me everything? I mean, I should write a book about dream visions. You're reminding me. You're reminding me about my daughter. I was 43. I had never been able to get pregnant when I had been married, and now I was single, and I was dating a man long distance, and it wasn't even that serious, and I was rarely seeing him, and because I was not fertile, supposedly, we were being not too careful with birth control. And suddenly one night I went to sleep and I'm flying. I flew into this big white house with all these gorgeous white spacious rooms. And I come into one room and there's a little girl and there's a little boy standing back that ended up, I met him later. He was my stepson. But the first being that comes forward is this little blonde-haired, brown-eyed girl. And I flew right up to her and looked into her beautiful face. I saw her face so beautifully. And I said, "Are you my baby?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Are you going to be a girl?" And she said, "Yeah, I think so." And I said, "What is your name?" And she said, clear as a bell, something soft like Sarah. And I just looked at her and I said, "I just want you to know I really, really love you." And she looked at me and dropped her childlike demeanor and looked at me and said, "And I really love you." And I woke up going, I'm going to have a baby and it's a girl and her name is Sarah. And I hadn't even validated that I was pregnant. And I went and did the whole caboodle of pregnancy. And the doctors were like, well, this could be a tubal pregnancy. And we went and did a scan. And I gave birth to a perfectly gorgeous, blonde-haired, brown-eyed baby girl named Sarah, and I've been so grateful ever since.
And notice what you're saying, though. You met that younger boy who apparently later in life, and this was
my stepson.
early. Yeah, well, this is before you even met them. Don't you find that interesting? That
I mean,
soul
was
print was
all
already
planned.
connected?
Yes.
That's the interconnectedness. It's not easy because you're a little connected until you start to be able to see and experience some of those to go, okay, what I thought was something else could also have a different viewpoint. And,
Or the
to
fact that
allow-
his parents went through divorce and I went through a divorce, and both of those kids were kind of devastated by that. And then I met his father when we were both single parents years later. And yet in the dream, this little boy had kind of hung back against the wall, letting me meet and interact with Sarah. But I noticed him, and I noticed his coloring and what he looked like, but it was almost like we kind of waved from a distance, you know? And when Kai came into my life as my stepson, I loved telling him that story. And I think hopefully nowadays it helps him even make peace with, kids have a hard time with divorce, even if it's the right thing. It kind of shatters their life for a while. So anything we can do to help them understand it's all soul agreements and life plans, and for some reason this is serving your highest good, that really helps them.
And look at the unification. Again, this is a child in their own soul print of consciousness that is already connecting with your beautiful daughter before she's even physically here.
I hadn't even thought
holy-
about that the two of them were already connected there.
Of course.
Oh, that's
Yep.
great. Yes.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into, Dad, we got some information. Here's some of the rules and regs that we want to work. Here's what we feel like we can learn. And you know what? We're open for other things too. And when you can have that firsthand experience to go, isn't that kind of weird and coincidental? There is none. But that
Right.
that young person's soul was already connected to my beautiful Sarah in this case from infancy. Oh, yeah.
Right.
And before.
Right.
Oh. So what if there's an evolution
Beautiful
of consciousness
life.
that, yeah.
And that's the beauty. I do think that we are evolving consciously. I do think that we are almost there, like really almost there. We just have to get through the last, have you ever watched someone pass? Like there's like a whole process of death, a process of dying. Our whole world is going through the throes of the death process.
Yeah.
And to get to that point where we can all be free on a soul vibration to live our own integrity in our own lives however we need to, without as much of the conditioning that hasn't served humanity the best, And we're getting there. That's a process.
Yeah. Well, I feel like so many people have gone out of their way in the divine to wake me up, to get me to do my work and realize how things work. And I'm so grateful for that. But, Paul in his death gave me an amazing gift because he brought me on a shared death experience. And you were talking about the throes of death. Well, he had ended up in the hospital in a coma, which is something we had never wanted to happen. And we had planned that he would die at home in my arms. And suddenly at the end, there were some medical crises and he ended up in a hospital room in a coma. And I was so distraught. And I was like, let me bring him home, and I was exhausted and I fell asleep on the floor, and his breathing hadn't changed from the coma for more than 24 hours. And I was thinking, oh, he's trapped in his body, which is not true, but I didn't know it then. And so I fell asleep on the floor, and Paul instantly came to me, free, happy, vivid, and said, what are you doing on the floor? Get up. You told me I could die in your arms. Get everybody out of the room, because it had become a circus. There were so many people in the hospital room. And he said, get everybody out. I'm just waiting for you to come and hold me and be present. And so I got up, cleared everybody out except for his mom and me. And we went on either side of him and held him. And we said, we love you. We are going to be fine. We release you to God, to spirit, to higher consciousness. And he instantly took his last beautiful breath. I'll never forget it. Like he responded instantly by soul. Okay, finally, you guys are here. You're ready. I can take that last breath. And he took that final breath, and his spirit lifted up and went out the window to the mountains, because he was a mountain climber, and we both saw it vividly. And I was lifted up into that state with him for weeks. So that's a shared death experience, and I know many listeners have had those. And that was Paul going, death is not some painful, terrible thing. It's mostly about waiting for your loved ones to get their act together.
Patience. Yep, exactly. And I think when you've gone through that firsthand and they can see how it's affected you, that you've been able to go through that and still come out, that is huge because, like I do, sometimes that can feel like it's the end of your world, man. Going, what the
I
frick am
think
I
that
supposed
was
to
a
do?
test for me, Jamie. Do you get the sense of that too?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I had failed that test, if I had not sought the higher meaning of Paul's death and gone on my spiritual exploration journey, it kind of would have been the wasted lifetime. Like I wouldn't have had all of these things happen to get me here where I could write books and help people. But it was a choice I had to make. And my spirit guides were like, we're really hoping you're going to make the right choice here, And they were doing everything they could to help me. And thank God, thank
And
God
you
I
did
did.
it. How healing is that? Is that empowering or what?
Well, for all grievers, we're all at that place where the minute you have that devastating loss, it is your soul's greatest moment of going, okay, I get to embrace the bigger understanding of why we're here, and I just want to get on with my true soul's work here.
But I have so many more people now that are coming to me over the years that their beautiful religions, that their pain is outweighing their fear of condemnation. And they'll come to me going, Jamie, I've never, ever been to somebody who does what you do. And my church don't look too kindly on it.
Oh,
my first
yeah.
response is, wow, first off, congratulations for having the guts to sit here. Second, let's just get a basic meaning of mediumship. To me, a basic meaning is to consciously connect with a being, a spirit, an entity outside of a physical body. And be like, yeah. Like, okay, so with that very definition, if you talk to God, Jesus, the angels, you're doing mediumship. And I'm willing to bet, that kind of
that's
connection
what I've
is,
always, it's always so blown my mind. Like I have a Catholic family in the South, and their priests say, no, you can't connect to departed spirits because you'll go to hell. That's the work of the devil. They use that phrase. And meanwhile, they do a mass where they are drinking in the blood of Christ and eating the body of Christ and connecting to, and I'm like, there's a disconnect here somewhere. Like, where do you guys think Jesus is,
and the evolution of our souls to realize that possibly it's been different than what we've been taught.
Right.
And to have the guts to go, okay, let's see if we can see something differently. Not better or worse, but different. Sometimes from that different
religion
vantage point.
has to get worked on because I've got a cousin who's a beautiful soul, and his wife of 30 years died from cancer. And I know she was trying to communicate with him and help him, and he was stuck, didn't know what to do with her things, and she was all like, let it go. I don't need all that stuff. And he was struggling, and he went to his local church, and they had a grief group. And the grief group, church driven, did a whole PowerPoint presentation on why Jesus said we are not supposed to talk to spirits, and that if your departed come to you, you have to shun them, push them away.
Wow.
This is a church, a religion, and all these grieving people are sitting around asking for help, and this is what they're being taught. And that was kind of the last conversation he and I had, because then he needed to go save his soul and not talk to me anymore, right? I mean, that is so disturbing.
It's
so
disturbing, but they're taking God out of the everyday person. And really, it's just a disempowerment for humanity. Get people to be in fear, disempowered. You can't make connections on your own. You have to rely on someone outside of yourself. And it's such an archaic way of thinking. Everyone right now is got to go inside to resource themselves, because without that connection to spirit, to the divine, to the God within, to the love, we don't heal without that. And we need to heal.
I hold my cousin in love every night, and I just say to his spirit, whenever you're ready, I'm here, and I love you, and I hope you find your way through all that dogma stuff. And I know he will.
And some souls, that's their journey. They have to go through this. This is what they've chosen, or this is what they're choosing at the moment to experience. And again, it's up to us to always hold the love for every person on this planet to be able to elevate to that level of love. All they have to do is tune in, and they could talk to their loved ones. They could talk to their own spirit team, or they could just feel the love of the universe. All of it can heal you. All of it can be beneficial. It's all right there in everyone's consciousness.
And we can hold our loved ones in a vision and just send them so much unconditional love, and see them just drinking up that unconditional love and looking at us and smiling with pure love. And by even sending that to people who we might be separated from, whatever reason, it begins to help them heal and lift their vibration and their consciousness, so that that relationship can someday, when the time is right, hopefully come together.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I think that that's a big learning experience for us. Is we are at the tipping point. Enough people are opening up to their inner spiritual realities, realizing, oh, it's just a reflection. Oh, it's all one. But to become more comfortable with that, to be able to make their own connections with God, he, she, 0 point field, nothing, whatever you want to call it. It's that kind of an interconnectedness that everything's allowed to be through love. As crazy as it is, all the good, bad, happy, sad, completely loved and accepted. And for myself, I love doing the scientific studies, but I also question, because there are times when I just unify and my soul is full, no judgment ever. And I shoulda and I coulda, woulda. And I asked my master guide, Chi, I'm like, Chi, what's happening with that? How is it that on average I perceive that I need to make this choice, and if I don't, something else is happening? And why do I feel so good and I'm not fearing anything? And he said, well, on a quantum level, the full potential of any and all experiences is happening now, and the potential of outcomes is all happening now. It becomes, what focused energy do you want to think about that'll create a vibrational match to that? And I'm like, oh, that's freaking brilliant. So we are already...
I love it that you have a quantum physicist spirit guide.
Yeah, oh, he's good.
I'm going to apply for one of those.
Good,
you know what the world needs to learn? In my opinion, the world needs to learn that what the world likes to dismiss as woo-woo is actually a spiritual perspective that, if they could embrace it, study it, would make their practical day-to-day life so much better. And, I grew up in a family where woo-woo was the last thing you could ever be and be accepted or loved. And I look back at that childhood and the messages, and also how my siblings are doing who didn't follow a different path like me. And I have to say, they're pretty unhappy, and they have a lot of problems that I believe they could shift out of if they could give themselves permission to be a little woo-woo, to walk down the woo-woo path, that it's really about a different perspective that empowers you here on Earth. And that's what people really don't understand. They think, oh, I'm going to go off and see ghosts, and how's that going to help me? That's not it, people. You're going to hear from angels, God, and your departed saying, get your act together down there. You're there for a purpose. Get on with it. That's what Spirit is telling us when we listen.
And you can enjoy it, and you can have fun, and you can feel the love all at the same time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the suffering, the frustration, the beating your head against the wall. As long as you have the courage to move through your own paradigm of what you grew up with. And that is the ultimate decision right there. Do you want to live the way you were taught, or do you want to live in a way that's in a resonance with you now?
Yes.
Question for you is, with your mom and grandma using their abilities of clairvoyance, were you not able to use that with them? Because for me, I was able to be trained by my mom. It was okay to do that.
Here's the problem, is that my mother had been the youngest of 12 of a Creole French family in New Orleans, and her absolute oldest sister had been so clairvoyant and so intuitive that she was put in, I guess they would call it an asylum nowadays. Because think about the 30s and 40s, the women who might say, I'm seeing spirit. I mean, this is a true thing. We don't know it now because it's not a reality now. But women who talked that way got put into loony bins, asylums, and they were medicated and shock treatment. And so she watched her older sister go through that. And the message that my mother got was, it doesn't matter how intuitive you are, if it's not going to help you have a very practical, grounded, successful life, then ignore it. And I understand why she had that feeling. And yet my mother is still to this day a profoundly intuitive woman, has dreams that come true, just like me. I mean, I got all of it from her lineage. But her real message to me was, I was born in the early 50s. It's like, you need to just find yourself a husband, settle down, have some kids, and talking about spirits is not going to help you do that.
And you had the guts to do it.
Well, yeah,
That's
I had to have
powerful.
some nudges on my hard head to get me to do it.
Yeah,
but I did.
But in connection with your life experience, family that's around you going, it may not be a productive thing, is beautiful that you found your way into humanity in this way, to be the very essence of who you are.
And Jamie, I do feel that my mom's lineage, ancestral lineage, is helping me. It's like I'm helping break a pattern of them being maybe persecuted or shamed for their gifts, even though New Orleans, of all places, does pay homage to the spirit world. It's still very dangerous there and fraught ridden with, how you show up in the world. And so I do feel that some of her older ancestors are saying, we need to shift all this into the light. So, Sue, can you help us? And I'm doing my best,
Carrying the mantle forward.
Yeah.
And it does. When we look at things in a quantum level, like all time is happening now, all of the healing work that you're doing for yourself, for coming out of the spiritual closet even, all of that frees up some piece of energy for every ancestor that's been persecuted, burned as a witch, thrown in an asylum, whatever the case was. There's an energy that heals and it ripples through all of that, because time is an illusion. This is all happening now. Their lifetimes are happening right now. And so this is the beauty. When we heal everything. And we're all interconnected. We're all one. So it's not just our families. It's the family of humanity. It's the family of the galaxies. It's all of it. We are all really encouraged to step into that place where we can be true to ourselves, powerful in our lives, and really learn how to express our authenticity. Yeah. We have an opportunity now in history, at least in the United States, for the most part, to be able to use our voices, to be able to express these things, to be able to share with the world through our books, through our podcasts, through our teachings, through all of this. And if we affect one person on this planet, we've done our job. This doesn't have to be, we don't have to sell millions of copies of books, even though that's awesome to be, to be recognized. Yet it's about getting the evolution, the consciousness in tune with something that is more organic and more pure than it has been for thousands of years. And we're all in this together. And so I want to applaud you for doing that ancestral work. And I know when I do that work, I'm like, whoa, I feel the ripples. I feel it intensely. My grandmothers have been showing up in the past few years just to honor this process of like, we love what you're doing. Thank you. Keep going,
So
keep
great.
going, keep going. Yeah. And so, this is something that we don't always talk about in the spiritual world, but anytime you take one step forward and it's a step into love or into divine consciousness, it's a step that heals the whole planet.
Yeah,
and it can
that.
be that simple. We don't need a new career all the time. We don't need a new, although that's nice if it gets you into your divine soul purpose, absolutely go for it. But we can be whoever we are in every moment, in every lifetime, and just tune into love, and it will have the effect that we came here to embody that.
Yeah.
I just think that's the key right there.
But one thing I think I've learned watching so many clients and so many people over the decades is that once a soul really wakes up to what's happening here and who they are relentlessly drawn by their soul to find work that is helpful in some way. Like maybe they were a computer programmer and they were good at that, but at the end of the day, all they were doing was building a business for somebody else and making money for somebody else, building a big retail store. And now their soul is going, I need to know at the end of the day that I've helped somebody. And that urge comes from our awakening that none of us are here alone. We're all connected and we all have to be helping each other in whatever ways we can do that. And I like to envision a world in the future where it's almost like Star Trek, where everybody has a role based on their gifts and talents and they're all serving in the way they can best serve. And, Captain Kirk laughs and says, oh, yeah, back when the world was economically based, and they all laugh. I'm looking forward to when we're having that conversation here on Earth.
Yeah, powerful. I think in being able to do this and have the guts to do it, for myself, I've gone back to a younger me. I've done that visual and I've given myself insight as to an adult as I perceive it, but doing that because it brings to question, for when I was young, people, I didn't have any money, nothing, and they'd be like, yeah, okay, sure. And I always thought to myself, you have no idea who I might be. I didn't know who the frick I was. But now, these years going, oh, I was able to go back to me because everything's happening now. There is no difference in that unification. But not only that, I wanted to see if I could get any other insight. And what I mean by that is my mom and I have written some children's books, The Adventures of Rocco and Tuki, the Kids from Mars. And I went back to a younger me and shared that. And when I came out of that visual, I had another story.
Wow,
I was like, oh, that's
so
freaking
beautiful.
Brilliant. Yeah, and real. It's nice to get a little understanding, go, I'm heading towards 60 now, going, yeah, it ain't nothing but a number. But seeing and experiencing my childhood as the empowerment to go, even though they don't understand me, I got to be me. I don't push it on anyone. I'm just going to be me. And I think that kind of a connection is, I always knew, one, it's all one, and I'm never alone. But two, I think in my own soul awareness was, I have me. I already am the adult as I perceive it. And it gave me a lot of confidence, not cockiness, confidence when you can back it, cockiness when you can't, but that kind of connection to go, I have love and compassion for everyone. And I always say, never mistake love and compassion for weakness. It is the complete opposite. And when we can share that it's okay to be you in whatever way and to have your own spiritual flavor, whatever might work, it's all one. It doesn't matter. It's, kind of like we're on top of the planet and this is our connection to the big guy. The further away you think you're going, the closer you're really getting. That's why it doesn't matter what way you take. In the end, you're going to find you. It's all one.
And I think if we go back into our past, like you're saying, and we look at that little, in my case, the little girl who was afraid to share her dreams and her spirit knowingness because she thought she wouldn't be loved, I can go back in my guided meditation and see her and hold her and say, good job, you're doing just great, and love on her. And in a way, it begins to heal that part of me that was wounded in that childhood, that we can travel through time and space and heal ourselves that way. And I think we can also do it for other people who we've witnessed them suffering at a certain time in their juncture, in their journey, and we can go back in our meditation and love on them in that predicament and just say, you did so great. You're such a beautiful soul. And a part of their soul hears that and just peps up into the light,
And you got to help them to help themselves. That's the beauty, empowerment, not enablement.
So if you want to hear more mystical conversations, I want you to check out Sue Frederick's podcast. She has some amazing guests, and a lot of the people on there we know, and we just love listening to your podcast. So
and you guys have to be on my podcast.
Yes,
That would be
yes,
awesome. Yeah,
we
let's
would
do
be
it.
honored.
Sounds
It'd be
good.
great. And visit her website, SueFrederick.com. All of this will be links in the show notes for you. And what a beautiful, thank you
Thanks for
so
having
much.
fun
What a
with us.
I
beautiful
love you
conversation.
guys.
I love
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank
Keep
you
doing
so
you,
much.
man. You're making a difference.
You too. You too.
Cool. And we will see you soon.
We are so grateful that you have taken the time to spend with us on our podcast today. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And remember, These abilities are so natural, they're supernatural.
And if you want to have more fun with your psychic evolution, we do have a mystery school. Check it out. There'll be a link in your show notes, and you can join us and indulge in all our classes and become a part of the Psychic Evolution Inner Eye family. And if you feel like this podcast can help someone, please share it with a friend if you feel like it could help them grow and expand in their psychic evolution.
Until next time, have fun with your psychic evolution.